So what happens when you are completely negligent and you run your Nissan e-Power vehicle completely out of gas? Well, the exact same thing that happens with any other vehicle. You come to a dead stop. But because it's a hybrid vehicle, it's a bit more nuanced than that, as I found out. Because yes, this is me running out of gas while doing the Nissan X-Trail e-Power review some days ago. So I'm going to walk you all through what went wrong on my part and what it looks like when you're running out of gas and when you're out of gas. This was the first clear shot that I had of the instrument cluster earlier on that day while recording the interior of the vehicle, and it's letting me know with the giant screen, low fuel. There's even a yellow indicator by the gas tank letting me know the gas goes in here. At the bottom right, there's also the gas gauge, which really isn't a gauge, it's more like bars. And then to the left of that, you have your kilometers of range remaining, all of which I missed because I am busy recording different parts of the car. In this particular video, I was more focused on recording the steering wheel and the steering wheel controls. I somehow missed all those warning indications. And then when I was focused on the dash, I was looking at the safety features and different things, which cleared away the notification. But there was still the gas gauge that is showing red. Now, I did see this showing red. I did see it. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, maybe it's 1 bar left because I'm not familiar with the vehicle. So I have never seen this vehicle with a full tank of gas. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm seeing 1 bar. It looks to be red, but maybe the 1 bar disappears and then the gas light turns on or something. That's my thinking. I am not realizing it is telling me this is the gas light, bro. Look at this. This is the gas light. You see the range over there? Notice you're seeing 3 dashes. You're not seeing any miles, kilometers, nothing. You're out of gas. Go to the gas station now. I wasn't looking at all of that. Now, these aren't excuses. This is me saying, yes, I was negligent. I ignored or I completely missed the warning sign on the giant screen telling me you're low on fuel. And then even when I looked at the gas gauge, I interpreted the red thing to be something different and overlooked it. So it was negligent on my part. And you might be asking yourself, why is the vehicle so low on fuel in the first place? Well, if you all watch the original review, it just came off the port the Friday before. And these vehicles are selling so fast that I told Randall Fieldsborough coming up Sunday. He didn't even get him a clean vehicle yet because if I had waited till Monday, Tuesday, when it cleaned and fueled up and ready to go by licensing, I wouldn't get to do it again. So I ran up this Sunday and did the review. However, the vehicle was at that point in time, which brings me to the running out of fuel. This was me setting up to do a 0 to 100 acceleration test, and we were waiting for the road to get clear. Now, those with a keen eye already realize, hey, something is wrong here. That engine isn't on. At this point, it should be at least on idling, sending power back into the battery. But as you can see, it's completely disconnected from the battery bar. Warning sign number 2 that I failed to pick up on then, but I'm seeing now in hindsight. Under heavy acceleration, the engine is supposed to rev up to match the speed you are going to generate more power. But as you can see here, I'm accelerating, the wheels are pulling power from the battery, but the engine is replenishing the battery. So we are completely in EV mode here, which means we are out of gas. Wait just now. I forget to put it in, as I always forget, I was just leave it in eco and doing these tests now. So what happened there? I stepped on the accelerator pedal and I found it wasn't accelerating like it normally did. It just gave a lazy acceleration. It accelerated like an internal combustion engine, which would be normal to most drivers, but to a hybrid vehicle, it just felt dead. So I pulled aside thinking that maybe it pulled off dead like that because it was in eco mode and not in sport mode. So I pulled aside, switched it to sport mode, and looked to pull off again. And that is when I got the warning on the screen saying reduce power.
Oh. A normal hybrid.
Power reduced.
You see? Oh no.
How low the battery?
Is that neutral?
No.
See the park on neutral.
It off? Now pay attention to this bit. At this point, the vehicle turned off, but it is still in neutral. If this ever happened to you, stay in neutral so you can at least push the car to the side of the road or something. Do not switch off and switch back on, because once you switch off and you switch back on, it's going to go into park and you will not be able to shift from park to any other thing. Reverse, neutral, nothing. You'll be stuck there until you can get the vehicle started again. So if you are ever driving and you run out of fuel in an e-power vehicle, it's going to go to neutral. Stay neutral. There's nothing you can do at that point in time. And I think that's one of the biggest downsides with shift-by-wire technology. Once the vehicle is off, that's it. You can't manually shift into drive or neutral and let the wheels free spin. So whatever you do, keep it in neutral until you are in a safe place. Luckily, the camera car was there that day. They went for gas, and this is us filling up to keep moving. Thing number 2 to remember: when you open the gas filler cap here, you are not going to see the typical thing to unscrew before you can push the nozzle in. It has some kind of easy nozzle fill system where this isn't there. What you have is a kind of flap. So the typical gas nozzle will push open this flap easily. But behind this flap, about 4 inches down, you have a secondary flap. So whatever gas can you are using has to be able to not only push open this flap, but the secondary flap. Which means you could have the gas, but a gas can like this, you're shit out of luck. If you have a gas can that has this nozzle, you'll have to chop off these things here because it's a narrow passageway. So you have to chop off these little things here, which is what we did. This as well, you have to shave off the top here, but ideally you want to have a straight gas can nozzle with no hooks or anything sticking up because the second flap is a bit more narrow than the first flap. Now, as to how far you can go after you run out of gas, that is something that has a gray area because the X-Trail has a 2.1 kilowatt hour battery. Now, ideally, in ideal circumstances, they say you can get between 4 to 5 kilometers of range, which means after the engine shuts off, if at that point in time the battery was at full capacity, you would have about 4 to 5 kilometers of range. Obviously, this depends if you're going uphill, downhill, into a headwind, things like that. So I'm estimating we left here, whatever road this is here, to go back out onto the highway. At some point, after we finished the camera work on the outside that we were doing along this highway, and then we turned to head back into Shogunas to go back on that exact same stretch we just started off from, the gas ran out. Because looking back at the footage, I wasn't in that vehicle at that point. I was here in this vehicle recording out the side glass. But looking back at the footage, when I jumped back in to do the 0 to 100 acceleration test, we were already completely out of gas. So somewhere between the highway and back in the Shogunas, it ran out of gas and was on only electric power. So I would say maybe 4 to 5 kilometers of range. Now don't go testing this. This is worst case scenario, but maybe 4 to 5 kilometers of range on pure electric power alone. But you should never reach to this point. This was just pure negligence on my part. But if there are any takeaways from this experience, 3 things. 1, always pay attention to your gauges. 2, if you do shut down for gas, let the vehicle roll to a safe place at the side of the road. Don't switch off and switch back on because it will turn back on in park, and wherever you are is where you would stay. And number 3, make sure the gas nozzle is a thin, straight, smooth gas nozzle. If you have one with indentations and ridges, you'll have to shave those things off before you can get it into the second flap.